In Westworld Season 3, Episode 6, William's in a mental hospital because Charlotte had him committed. In therapy, there's talk of hope and healing, but William gives an edgy, nihilistic speech about how humans are a virus and there's no God and no meaning. This is why William loved Westworld. In the park, there was meaning. Everything was designed by the godlike Ford. And when William was the powerful, gunslinging man in black, his speeches were badass, but now that he's a mental patient, he sounds more like a nutty old man. William faces the truth. He admits that he got confused and delusional in Westworld, and he killed his daughter Emily. William feels he'd be better off dead. He's toyed with self-destruction since last season. But William's put on a special treatment called AR therapy. Because this isn't a regular hospital, this is one of the re-education facilities where Serac edits people who don't fit into his system. People like Jean-Mi and like Caleb. We're told that this treatment is used on veterans with PTSD. So now this facility tries to change William. William's therapist gets her insight profile, because last episode Dolores sent everyone the data, revealing how they're watched and controlled. The therapist learns that since she's been cheating on her partner and abusing drugs, she'll lose her family and her medical license, so she hangs herself. Dolores' data leak causes real tragedy and chaos. We hear that half the staff at this place have disappeared. The staff take a blood sample from William and find unknown proteins and synthetic markers in his blood. This is what Charlotte injected William with in episode 4. It's a tracker to find William's location, so Charlotte learns that William and this facility are in Mexico. It's kinda weird that Charlotte sent William to this hospital, but now she needs to track him to find where he is. Last episode, Martin Loris showed Bernard this hospital, and it seemed like he already knew its location. So it's confusing, but the point is that Charlotte finds this facility in Mexico. Maybe it's the same place where Serac edited Jean-Mi in that flashback. And maybe it's where Dolores and Caleb are now flying. William has a drip installed, the digital drug device, and to calm him, the staff give him a limbic tab called Desert Oasis, which is one of many drug flavors listed on the Insight website. William starts his AR therapy, and it looks just like Caleb's flashback, so it seems like he had the same treatment. With a combination of VR glasses and his drip tripping him out, William has visions of his past. He sees Craddock playing the role of a nurse. Last season, Craddock was a Confederado host who William killed in an attempt at redemption. Then William has a hallucinatory therapy sesh with past versions of himself. There's William as a child, and Jimmy Simpson William from Season 1, and corporate family man William, and Man in Black William. Present-day William appears to have all his fingers, even though we just saw that he's actually missing fingers that were blown off last season. That shows that this is all in William's head. He's just imagining himself with fingers as like residual self-image, like in The Matrix. The therapy is run by James Delos, William's father-in-law, who William seemed to admire and respect, though he also took James's company, Delos, and trapped James in an immortality experiment last season. They all argue about how and when William became such a destructive, fucked up person. William thinks that maybe Westworld or his childhood made him violent. He says that as a kid he had nothing except his books. He's been telling himself that since Season 1. We see a flashback of Kid William reading a book called Sir Rowan and the Lady of Ceylon, which seems to be an invented book for the show, not a real book. It mentions a Sir Logan like William's brother-in-law, Logan, and this lady looks a bit like Dolores, so maybe William fits the role of Sir Rowan, a knight on some journey of self-discovery. We see William's dad being aggressive with him, and at first it seems like a cliché story about William becoming bad because his dad was mean to him. But turns out, Kid William was the mean one. He severely beat another kid just for teasing him. So the idea is that William didn't become a monster, he was born a monster. It's like William said last season, there's a dark stain inside him that was always there. So William says he never had a choice. James asks if William ever had free will, or if he was just a passenger following his code. The Passenger was the name of the Season 2 finale, which concluded that humans are just passengers with no free will, and it's only the hosts who can truly change and grow. So William says, if you can't tell, does it matter? Which is what Angela told him in season 1. Maybe free will doesn't matter, and maybe William's past doesn't matter. All these past Williams are dead and gone, only the present is real. So William kills all his past selves, rejecting the man he was. He frees himself from the prison of his own sins by destroying his past. Serac says this episode that hosts remember everything, but humans can forget. By forgetting his past, William can become someone new. He finds new purpose and says he's the good guy. So what good will William do? William clearly doesn't care about humans. He hates himself and thinks humanity is a virus. But he does feel guilty for abusing Dolores, so maybe he'll help Dolores and the hosts take over the world. And maybe that was Dolores's plan. Maybe the reason why she sent William here is so he would have this revelation and come help her. And if Dolores manipulated William, that might suggest that he has no free will after all. Either way, this is probably not what this AR therapy was meant to do. Serac uses these facilities to make people more predictable and controllable, but William's new sense of freedom and purpose might cause more chaos. Bernard and Stubbs arrive and pull William out of AR. They say he was left in there too long because the hospital was disrupted by the data leak. So maybe that's why William's treatment got so crazy. Bernard is here because Martin Loris told him about this place last episode, and maybe they got its location from the blood tracker. But what will Bernard and William do now? How does this all fit into Dolores's plan? It's interesting that these shots don't show William's hands. Because if we ever see William with all his fingers again, that might suggest that he's still inside the AR treatment. Maybe what's happening still isn't real. Maeve awakes in a simulation of the Sublime, the digital heaven where Maeve's daughter went last season. Last time we saw Maeve, she was killed by Musashi Loris, so Serac plugged Maeve's brain into this simulation while he rebuilds her body. Maeve wants to reunite with her daughter in the Sublime, but Dolores has the key to the Sublime, so Serac wants Maeve to kill Dolores and get him the key. To do this, Maeve says she needs help, so Serac starts printing Hector and 2 other hosts to help Maeve. Serac promises that if Maeve succeeds in killing Dolores, he'll let her go to the Sublime, to heaven. But if she fails, she'll go to a bad place, which sounds like hell. Serac is playing God, and Maeve seems to be obedient to him so far, but maybe she'll rebel and win her freedom, just like she did last season. Maeve does some combat training in Warworld, killing some Nazis for fun, like Neo and Morpheus training in simulations of the Matrix. Previously, Maeve's power to control other hosts didn't work here, but it looks like Serac has given back her admin privileges. It's kind of fucked up that Maeve kills these Nazis for fun. Season 1 was all about how it's wrong to kill hosts for fun. Sometimes Westworld is more interested in being badass than being morally consistent. We see a bar in Warworld called the Taverna della Farfalla, which is Italian for the Butterfly Tavern. Maeve's saloon in Westworld was called the Mariposa, which is Spanish for butterfly. And in Shogun World there was another Mariposa bar. This represents parallels and consistencies across cultures. It also represents Lee Sizemore's laziness, because he copied and pasted storylines when he wrote the park narratives. Lee died last season, but this simulated digital Lee exists in this simulated Warworld. He now knows that he's not real, so he drinks at the bar all day, which is not so different to what he did when he was alive. The simulation shimmers for a moment, because Serac moves Maeve's brain into the Delos building. He starts printing bodies for Maeve, and for the other 3 hosts who'll be her allies, so Maeve says she'll be reunited with some old friends. We know one of these hosts is Hector, and another might be Clementine, because this ID number on the screen has appeared before as Clementine's ID. The 3rd host might be Hanayo, the Shogun World equivalent of Armistice. Her actress, Tao Okamoto, confirmed that she'd return this season. Maybe Hanayo will come up against Musashi, her former ally. Hector's plugged into the simulation, and Maeve finally reunites with the real Hector. Maeve's getting the old squad back together. And another host is plugged into the simulation. It turns out that Martin Loris, the Dolores copy impersonating Martin Connells, wasn't completely destroyed in that explosion last episode. Serac recovered the brain and plugs it into this simulation so that Maeve can talk with this copy of Dolores. Martin Loris appears here as Dolores, not as Martin, because it seems like this copy stayed true to Dolores instead of diverging and changing into his own person, like Charlotte Loris does. So we get another dramatic conversation between the two main rebel hosts in the story. Maeve says that Dolores has too much power, because she has the encryption key to both the human data in the Forge and to all the hosts in the Sublime. She's the gatekeeper to two species. Dolores says she's using her power to fight for a future for the hosts. She's out here protecting their data, making new hosts, saving their species from extinction. Maeve has only been fighting for her own loved one, her daughter. Maeve has sacrificed heaps of people for the sake of the one person she cares about. But of course, Dolores has also slaughtered heaps of humans and hosts. Ultimately, they've both done terrible things, but Dolores said they had to. Their species is in a war of survival, which means they're not heroes or villains, they're just survivors. And sadly, they seem doomed to fight each other, because since they have different priorities, they can't trust each other with the power of the encryption key. Will these two protagonists ever make peace? Charlotte tries to protect her family from chaos. Since Dolores released Insight's data, everyone's realized that they're being watched and controlled by algorithms. So all over the world, people freak out. There's rioting, looting, someone throws their clothes out the window. It's anarchy. But would this really happen from a data leak? In the real world, there have already been leaks revealing global surveillance and systems of control. It's been reported that the Chinese government in Xinjiang uses AI tech and surveillance data to target and arrest suspicious people. There's 1 million people imprisoned in re-education camps right now under this data surveillance system, and there's no mass chaos over that. But in Westworld, San Fran gets chaotic. Some kids paint an image of the maze. In Season 1, the maze represented the host's journeys to consciousness and freedom. Now it's the humans who have to escape control, and the maze that they're trapped in is Insight's system. The Insight logo looks like a maze shaped like a globe. At Jake's house, there's an Enso circle in the background, a Buddhist symbol which looks a lot like the Rehoboam circle. Rehoboam is looking chaotic right now because the world is getting chaotic, deviating from Serac's plan. Charlotte Loris has a touching moment with Jake. This Charlotte started out as a copy of Dolores, but living Charlotte's life has changed her, and she now genuinely cares for Charlotte's family. But first, she's got to stop Serac from taking over the Delos company, because Dolores wants to use Delos' technology to make more hosts. The plan is to vote to make Delos private, but Serac assassinates one of the board members so they don't have enough votes. So Serac takes over the Delos company. He now owns Westworld. Charlotte feels defeated, but Dolores tells Charlotte to smuggle out the Delos host technology anyway. Dolores says they'll build a new world together. But at a time when Charlotte is scared and needs support, Dolores is not as sympathetic and loving as Jake was. So Charlotte feels closer to her human family than to Dolores and the hosts. Dolores says she and Charlotte considered removing their painful emotions, but they decided to keep them because what's the point of surviving if you lose the feelings that make life meaningful? Dolores learned this last season when she removed Teddy's empathy and fear to help him survive. She realized that was a mistake when Teddy committed suicide. Serac rolls up and takes charge of the Delos company. His Rehoboam watch gets more neat and ordered, showing that the world is getting back to his plan. All Serac wants from Delos is the encryption key to get the human data from the Forge. Everything else he destroys. He doesn't care about the business of the Westworld parks, and he doesn't care about the hosts' right to survive. All the hosts we've known over the previous seasons are burned in a robot genocide. So before Serac deletes everything, Charlotte downloads a backup of the host data, and she seems to upload it somewhere safely. Charlotte stands by this statue, which is similar to this mirrored statue in episode 3. The mirrored statue represents Dolores and Charloris together, identical and symmetrical. But this new statue stands alone. It represents how Charlotte is becoming a separate person to Dolores, and its rough texture might foreshadow that she's about to be burned. Serac calls a meeting, and Charlotte pointedly removes a bracelet for no apparent reason. On the Still Watching podcast, actress Tessa Thompson revealed that this was actually to fix a continuity error, because they shot some stuff out of order and they forgot to have the bracelet on in later scenes. Serac reveals that he knows that Charlotte is a host, because the real Charlotte would never have been so concerned about her family. It's kind of ironic that the fake robot Charlotte is a more attentive mother than the real human Charlotte was. That said, we did see the real human Charlotte send an emotional message to her son, so maybe humans are more able to change than Serac realizes. Charlotte tells Serac that she secured the host data, but Serac laughs and says he was watching her all along, so it sounds like those files didn't actually get through. Charlotte tries to shoot Serac, but he's just a hologram. He outplayed her. Serac's goons attack, and Charlotte goes full Terminator to escape. Charlotte wants to make sure that Maeve and her allies can't come after her, so Charlotte destroys Hector's pearl. Since the originals at Westworld are destroyed, this means that Hector is permanently dead. Well, this is Westworld, so someone might still make a simulation or a copy from memory of him or something, but the point is that Charlotte has murdered Maeve's lover, and now the freshly printed Maeve looks determined to destroy her. Before Charlotte can destroy Maeve and the other allies as well, she is attacked, so she fights her way to escape with the help of a friendly robot. She grabs Martin Lawrence's brain on the way out, so maybe he'll continue to be a character. Charlotte escapes and returns to her human family. She seems to be leaving Dolores once and for all, and embracing a life with Jake and Nathan. She promises to keep them safe, and then their car explodes, killing Charlotte's family. One theory was that Dolores might have blown up this car, because she wants to separate Charlotte from her human family and make her loyal to the hosts. But Evan Rachel Wood confirmed that Serac blew up the car, apparently to kill Charlotte. But the guy who blows up the car doesn't bother to check that Charlotte's dead, which is dumb, because Serac just recovered Martin after he seemed to die in an explosion. And indeed, Charlotte survives too. She crawls from the wreck like Anakin in Star Wars, burned and grieving at the loss of her loved ones. Maybe, like Anakin, this'll be the origin of a darker, angrier Charlotte. Maybe she'll be more loyal to the hosts now, and want to take down Serac in revenge. The hosts are often defined by tragic cornerstone memories, like Bernard losing Charlie, and Maeve losing her daughter. Maybe Charlotte losing her family will be her cornerstone memory, and she'll finally truly become her own person, making her own choices. So this episode, Decoherence, is all about change and divergence. William rejects his past to find a new path. Maeve and Dolores deepen their divide. Charlotte's identity is burned away, and she rises again to take new form. Westworld has been renewed for a 4th season. There are also upcoming seasons of His Dark Materials, The Expanse, Foundation, and the Dune movies, which are the kinds of series we'll cover after this season of Westworld. We'll also do more videos on the Game of Thrones books. Author George Martin says he's working to finish the upcoming next book, so now's a good time to read the series. As well as the main books, there's the World book, the Dunk and Egg stories, and Fire and Blood, which the upcoming prequel TV show is based on. You can get any of these on audiobook for free right now by signing up for a trial with Audible. Members get an audiobook each month, and if you cancel, you keep the audiobooks. You can listen while you train in the Matrix, or while you drink and complain. Sign up at audible.com/ASX. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. We're holding live streams right after each episode of Westworld Season 3 at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time Sundays. Patreon supporters can watch the live streams after their broadcast. Thanks to patrons Stephanie Ramirez, Shakib Majid, Hugo King, Xavier Spain, Nick Hodemakers, Laura Rodriguez, and Oscar. Cheers.